Everybody, we are going to look at 4-5. So 4-4 was all about writing equations from tables and graphs. And there are two main things that you need to write an equation in slope-intercept form. You need to know what m is, which is our slope, and you need to know what b is, which is our y-intercept. Okay, so from a table, you had to calculate slope using that formula. And for your y-intercept, when x was 0, you had to look to see what y is. From a graph, you just looked at the line and you calculate a rise over run for your slope, and you just look to see where the graph crossed the y-axis for b. But for writing an equation from ordered pairs, there are two things that you have to do. Sometimes, the first scenario, they're going to give us the slope. Like here, they're giving a slope of 1/3, and they're going to give us a point. And remember, a point contains an x and a y value. If we have all of that, if we know slope, we still need to find b, which is the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, what we're going to do is we're going to substitute all of our known values into the equation of y equals mx plus b. So again, we have m, we have an x value and a y value. We're going to substitute all that into that equation and solve for b. The second scenario that we have, which is on the back of our notes, is just a tiny bit harder, so I'm going to put a little harder. Okay, they don't give us the slope like they did up top with the 1/3. They give us two ordered pairs, and we have to calculate the slope like we've been doing with the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and hopefully you're pretty good at that by now. Once we have the slope, we're going to choose one of the two ordered pairs that we have. And it doesn't matter which one. I always try to go with the ones that are positive and no decimals or fractions if that's available. Once we've chosen one of the ordered pairs, then it kind of looks like the problem up above. We're going to substitute it in. And we're going to substitute the slope and the ordered pair that we chose. And then we're going to solve for b. All right, so we're going to do some of these, not all of these, because I think you're going to catch on very, very quickly. So we're going to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So from number 1, they're giving us already slope. So I'm going to go ahead and write it over here because I know that I need m and I need b, and slope is already given to me as 1/3. I have an x and a y coordinate, and I need to put it in slope-intercept form, but I've got to find out what b is. I don't know what that is yet. So I'm going to use all the points that I have there. So again, that's m. So y, in this case, is 14. I got that from right here. Okay, so 14 equals 1/3 times x, which x is right there, 6, plus b. Well, 1/3 times 6, in your calculator, you would do 1 ABC 3 times 6. You should get 2. Now you have a one-step equation. You've been doing that since 6th grade, if not before then. To get b all by itself, we need to remove the 2. So I'm going to either add it or subtract it. And I hope you were thinking that you need to subtract it. And what you do to one side of the equal sign, you've got to do to the other. So b is equal to 12. I'm going to put that right up here. Okay, because 14 minus 2 is 12. All right, so now I have everything I need to write this equation. I have my m, I have my b, so I'm just going to substitute it in. Y equals 1/3 x plus 12, and that's it. Okay, let's look at number 2. They're giving us our slope again, which is -5, and we have to find b. Okay, so I've got an x coordinate and a y coordinate that I'm going to plug into y equals mx plus b. So y is -22, m is -5 times x, which is +5. Again, got that from right there. And I've got to figure out what b is. So that's -22. All right, and -5 times 5 gives me a -25 plus b. One-step equation, I got to get b all by itself, and I'm going to do that by doing the opposite of what's there. So the opposite of -25 is to add 25. And what I do on one side of the equal sign, I've got to do to the other. So sometimes I draw that line there just to kind of help me out. This goes away, and negative 22 plus 25 should give you 3. So b is equal to 3. That equation in slope-intercept form, again, I'm going to just be replacing the m and the b. Y, let's try that again. Y equals negative 5x plus 3. Okay. Like I said earlier, I'm going to skip around a little bit because I think you get pretty used to it by now. In this case, m is equal to 2/5. Okay, we got to find b. This is an x coordinate and a y coordinate. What makes this one a little harder is both our x and y coordinates are negative. Let's go ahead and plug it in. Y equals mx plus b. Okay, and I know that in this case, y is negative 6. M is 2/5, x is negative 15, plus b. So if I multiply 2/5 times negative 15, that is going to give me a negative 6 plus b. Okay, solve that one-step equation. How do I remove a minus 6? I'm going to add it to each side. And b is going to equal 0 because that cancels out. All right, so my equation is y equals 2/5 x plus 0. And remember, you don't need the plus 0. You can just have it as y equals 2/5 x. Okay, hopefully you remember that that is a proportional linear equation. All right, so let's go to the part that's a tad bit harder. Okay, so I'm looking at number 5, and I don't see the slope, but I see 2 points. And my note's up top, so I'm going to scroll back, so watch your eyes. Okay, right there. It says, from 2 ordered pairs, start by calculating the slope. So that's what we're going to do. We got 2 ordered pairs. Let's start by calculating the slope. And you know me, I'm a labeler. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And we know our formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to go ahead and do that formula. y2 is 5 minus y1. x2 is 1 minus a negative 4. Be careful because x1 is a negative, so you've got to include that negative sign even though there's a minus sign already there. And my calculator, 5 minus 0 is 5. 1 minus the negative 5, if I did a keep, change, it would be 1 plus a positive 4, and 1 plus 4 is 5. So that simplifies to give me 1, so my slope is equal to 1. I want to, now the part 2 of my instructions say that I need to pick one of the ordered pairs. It doesn't matter which ordered pair I pick, but I like the ones that are positive without any decimals or fractions, so I'm going to choose that. All right, so I'm going to do y equals mx plus b using 1 and 5 for x and y. So 5 is going to replace y, 1 is going to replace m, times x, which is 1, plus b. So 1 times 1 is 1, plus b. All right, how do I remove 1 and get the b all by itself? Well, I subtract it. So b is equal to 4. So m was equal to 1, b is equal to 4. And when I write my equation, that's going to be y equals 1x plus 4. And some of you guys may know that you don't have to have the 1 there, so we can just say y is y plus 4, or y equals x plus 4. Sorry about that. Okay. Moving on. Again, I'm going to skip around a little bit on these. So I'm going to look at number 8. Okay. Again, they're not giving us the slope, so I'm going to label. Okay. So I'm going to have y2 minus y1. And remember, that's minus a negative, so that becomes a plus a positive. On the bottom, negative 3 minus 2. So negative 36 plus a positive 24 ends up being 60 over a negative 5. because negative 3 plus a negative 2 is a negative 5. So that's going to give me a negative 12 for slope. Okay, so m equals negative 12. All right, so now I'm going to pick a pair, and unfortunately both of the pairs have a negative number in it, so I'm just going to choose the first one because I'm not very creative. Okay, so I'm going to do y equals mx plus b. All right, so y is negative 24, m is a negative 12, we just calculated that, x is 2, plus b. So I see something going on. Negative 12 times 2 is a negative 24 plus b. To get rid of that negative 24, I add it to each side and I get 0 again. Okay, so let me just write that here. B is equal to 0. So my equation in slope-intercept form, y equals negative 12x plus 0, or y equals negative 12x. It's another proportional linear equation. Okay. I have no idea why it did that. Okay, we'll just go with it. Let's take a look at number 9. One more problem where they don't give us the slope. Okay, so we'll calculate it. Y2, which would be 15, minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I get 5 over 3. That's an ugly fraction, but that's okay. Leave it like that and pick a pair. And again, I don't really have any problem with either one of them, so I'm just going to pick the first one. And that's y equals mx plus b, so I'm going to replace y with 10, m with our slope of 5 over 3, times x, which is 3, plus b. Okay, so when I multiply that through with my calculator or in my head, 5/3 times 3 is actually 5. Plus b, subtract 5 on each side, and b is equal to 5. Okay, so my slope is 5/3, my y-intercept is 5. So y equals 5/3 x plus 5. Okay. Last problem that we're going to do together. All right. We have a word problem. At a local pizza shop, customers pay a set price for a large pizza plus additional charges per topping. A large pizza with 2 toppings costs $13.50, and a large pizza with 5 toppings, $15.75. What 2 ordered pairs would you make out of this situation? Well, I would have 2 toppings for $13.50, and I would have 5 toppings for $15.75. Okay, so x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so write an equation. So we got some work to do first. We got to find our slope. So y2 minus y1, 1350. Okay, all of that over 5 minus 2. Okay, and 1575 minus 1350 is $2.25 over 3, but I need to go ahead and divide that out. So the slope is 75 cents, and the slope represents your toppings. Okay, so 75 cents a topping. All right, I'm going to pick either pair, and again, I'm just going to pick the first one because they're both positive. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. I'm going to replace y1 with, or y with $13.50 equals 75 cents times 2 plus b. That gives me $1.50, or 1.5, plus b. Subtract that on each side because the opposite of a positive 1.5 is a negative 1.5. Subtract that, and b is equal to 12. Okay, so the toppings are 75 cents and the pizza is 12. So let's go ahead and write our equation for that. Y equals 0.75x plus 12. All right, let's kind of recap what we did today. So watch your eyes again because I'm going to scroll to the top. We wrote equations from a point and a slope. So they gave us a point and they gave us the slope, and we just substituted everything in, found b, and then wrote our equation. That's what these first three were like here. Okay, the second part was a little harder. We had ordered pairs. We had to find the slope from the ordered pairs, and then we picked a pair, didn't matter which one, and did everything that we did on number one, substituting them in, then solving for b. Okay, so that's it with your prep work. As you're looking at it, whatever you find your answer is, it says look at the value of b, okay, and it should be found in the table of letters. So whatever your answer is, you would come down here for b and match it up with whatever letter it is. Okay, so if it was -8, and I assure you number one is not -8, then you would go to 1 and put an A there. Again, I promise you it is not A. But anyway, if you have any questions about anything, please find either Mrs. Bird or myself, and we'll be happy to help you out. Until next